Hello everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Velvet Lounge Life Outlander edition. This is part 5 of our specials that we're doing before the show starts in February, whereas we are spoiling the entire season for you. So what does that mean? Some people are like, oh my God, are you going to give us every iota of information? I will give you everything that you ask for. So if you put a question down below this video or any other video that I've produced, and that question is there, I will answer it. So yes, whether it's an answer you want to hear or not, it's based upon what I know. And what I know is everything that's in the book. Plus, I know a lot of other extras. And how do I get these tidbits of information? Well, I have a variety of resources. Wink, wink. Inka, inka, inka. That was supposed to be my my sound effect for winking. So yes, I try to put a little bit of comedy in here. But first of all, the very first thing I want to do is this. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for taking the 2 seconds it takes to click the thumbs up button. And thank you more if you are also leaving comments, sharing our videos. We much appreciate that. Plus, doing those 3 quick, simple things, subscribing, thumbs up, commenting, or asking a question, that's an entry into the drawing that we will be doing at the end of the television series to give away all 8 books in the Outlander series. So what does that mean to you? It just means watch our videos, comment every time you watch a video, and comment on it. That's an entry. Also remember the thumbs up, because that's your entry right there. Thumbs up, comment. And please watch the videos. Like, we can kind of tell if people are saying, oh, I watched the video, but we know how long the videos are. We know how many people watch them, and it's kind of like basic math that YouTube does. So obviously it's basic math that we can do. You know, let it run in the background while you're doing other things. Like, it's a great way to pass the time if you're doing chores, taking care of children, gardening. Let's say you're sewing, crocheting, or, oh my God, cooking a meal. Whatever it is, just some ideas there. Some of the other things that we're doing, though, is not just giving away the 8-book series of this. We are also giving away other beautiful items that are very outlandish, such as some of our own collection of American silver coins, very befitting since this show is taking place. This is in the Americas right here. This is on Fraser's Ridge. This is a set that shows Jamie and Claire's home. So yeah, they kind of progress, can't you tell? But we are also going to be giving away some beautiful mouth-blown, handmade cobalt blue glasses, drinking glasses. They're absolutely gorgeous. We have some jewelry that is very Celtic that we're giving away. We have a bunch of trade tokens and other tokens, which are part of at least 2 or 3 lots of those that we'll be giving away because we have so many, as well as this beautiful spongeware handmade bowl that was made actually here in New England. So very, very interesting. And a couple other things that we're throwing in. And guess what? You do not have to pay the postage. Regardless of where you are in the world, we will send these items to you if you are one of the drawing winners. And just to let you know, we deal in antiques, uniques, collectibles, and oddities. So we have a very vast collection of items. And if you watch our eBay and entrepreneurial videos on this channel, then that will also give you an idea of the high quality that we deal in. So without further ado, I want to show you this particular video clip. You ready? Here you go.
It's my fault you're all here. to the Carolina wilderness. I hope you don't stay.
When this water you tell me about eventually comes, it would
Did you see
be
Murtaugh?
pain.
Our time must be done.
You want to go back, don't you?
So what you're seeing there is, of course, the American Revolution, Revolutionary War is taking place. So that tells me a couple of things. Number one, the Fiery Cross is what season 5 is basically based on, but you see a lot more redcoat action coming into play and a lot of conversation about several subjects. One of them being whether or not Jamie and the crew, meaning those that can't travel to the future, if they should evacuate the area, go somewhere else until this war is over, like what should they do? The other part is whether Claire, Roger, and Bree, and this other person I have to tell you about, if they should actually also evacuate that particular time in the 1700s and go back to the future where, of course, they know they can be safe, and obviously there's a chance that they could return. Okay, there's a lot of books that are still left over after this one, and after season 5, watching the show on Stars, there's still a lot of story to be told. So even if they were to go back to the future, those that could, believe me, they're going back to the past as well. Why? Because there are so many books left in the series. So some things you can deduce easily.
If I am to keep us safe here, then time, space, history, be damned.
So when Claire uses the words time, space, history, be damned, does that mean that she's like, kiss my buttocks, time and space? We are staying where we are. I am not leaving my husband this time. And of course, she's not going to force Roger, Bree, and this other individual to stay if they don't want to. But it sounds as if, from what you just saw, Bree has made her mind up, which whatever her situation is, Roger is always there. Roger is dedicated 100% to Bree and to baby Jimmy as well, whether he's his baby or not biologically. And so there are questions, and of course there will be answers, and some of that will be spoiled for you.
It's safer in the future. It's time.
So, if you can imagine a beautiful rainy day at the Ridge, there's much to be done in home as well as outside. However, due to the weather, Claire has decided to do some experiments in her surgery. So that's what you're looking at in this picture. It's a actually, it's a clip of her surgery. This will be one of the sets on the television show. And in this picture, there are some key things to note, and obviously some key differences from the book. One of them being the beautiful leaded windows. So in the book, Diana, in all of her wisdom, ensures that we understand that, okay, at this point in time in history, glass, especially flat, plain, like pane glass, whether it's plain in color or stained glass, which we know does exist at this time, would have been very expensive and incredibly hard to get up into, whether it be the Allegheny Mountains or the Blue Ridge Mountains. We know for a fact in the United States, this story that she's written, at this point in time, those are the two mountain ranges where they're the only two possible mountain ranges where Fraser's Ridge, although fiction, could have been located. I actually took a trip through the Allegheny Mountains this weekend, ironically. So what do we see? We see this beautiful leaded glass. So we know that for the beauty and the magic of television, that this does not match the books. Why doesn't it match the books? Because in the books, it's clearly described that their window coverings are made of either a hide or some sort of material that has been oiled to make it water resistant and to also, somehow keep some of the wind out. And those window coverings are either nailed or tied or a combination thereof to the frame to suit the purpose of weather protection. So obviously when we see the show on television, things are going to supersede what is in the book as far as decoration, as far as technology, if you will, etc. And even the excesses, because in Claire's surgery, in the book, it is clear that the amount of minutia that you see in this picture is not present and is not described in the book. She does have actual cabinets, and there are, some open shelving where things are stored. And the reason I'm telling you about that is because her cat Asdal, is roaming about. And I remember commonly thinking, why don't they have cabinets so that the cat doesn't accidentally push something over, or a latch on the doors, or on, these cabinets, etc., so that the kids don't get into anything by accident that could harm them. I remember having those thoughts. But also remember Claire, even in the future, it's like the 1960s, maybe even the early 70s at this point, and child safety measures are not what they would become in, let's say, the 1980s and up until today. So that could be some of the reasoning behind it, but I know I kept having those thoughts. But anyway, so the other thing to notice is the amounts of bits of metal. There's a lot of bits of metal, when you look at the candle holders, just other little miscellaneous things that are here and there in the surgery. And in the book, Jamie, Claire, and the gang are still at what I consider a relatively primitive, I'm going to say, state of mind as well as state of being at this point. And the reason I say that is there's, are descriptions in the book about little things that they have around the home. They're still using wooden bowls and, things that they traded, of course, with the American Indians, other settlers, things that Jocasta, of course, gave them. They don't really go into tons of detail about every single item she gave them, but based upon, her needing to give them materials, to make clothing and things like that, as well as other things, you sit there and in your mind, you kind of get a visual picture from reading the books of, the differences versus what you see on this television set. The other thing to note is the amount of glass that's on the counters. You have the little glass globes here that are full of liquids, plants, whatever, that, would have been easier to transport, easier to have someone perhaps in Richmond or wherever, create and then get them back to the ridge, but would they have had so much? There are, cloches here, medical cloches over little experiments and things like that. Would they have had that in the book? And in the book, there are a few things that are described, such as the glass microscope plates that she uses with this ancient microscope that she has here. This is her medical case that Jamie gave her as an anniversary gift. One of the other gifts she receives eventually is this. And both of those are, as we know, from the former doctor that used to take care of people in that area. But like I said, you see other things in here. This version of a beaker. covered like cloached experiments on, clay plates. There's a tubing system right here, etc. It goes on and on. So just some things to know and some differences. And I always notice when I'm watching movies, or especially historical television shows, or even those that are based on fiction but have a historical slant, I always look at the background. I'm always, you see the characters, they're right in your face, but sometimes you miss those little details. So a couple things that I want to give you guys as beautiful information are some of the spoilers, of course. So something that happens that's very key is, as I stated before in the previous episode of my show, Ian and Rollo return. I was so happy when I read that in the books. And that will happen on the television show as well. When Ian returns, however, he does not return empty-handed. He actually has Otter Tooth's diary. So an Otter Tooth, who was a traveler from the future who came to the past to try to save his American Indian brothers and sisters from slaughter, rape, pillage, their villages being destroyed, their rights, they suddenly have no rights. They almost become an enslaved people, etc. And their religion and what they believe in nature is, basically stripped away like their names. What happens is Otter Tooth has thankfully left an accounting of, what he attempted to do, what he planned on doing, things that happened, etc. Of course, in reading this, one of the things that's noted in the books anyway, is that Claire realizes that this was written with a ballpoint pen. And as Otter Tooth's pen is running out, so is his time as far as survival. Because he gets to the point where he's like, no one's listening to me. They think I'm insane. They believe that, he has some sort of brain illness or something, because they just can't believe that the things that he is telling them are going to come true. And so he goes out on his own and tries to, reap any justice he can get, or at least slow down the process, hopefully giving his people and other native people a chance to survive. And it's ironic the way that Diana wrote this, and it was really poignant when you think about it, the fact that his pen is running out as his life is running out. And so, and that is something that Claire, of course, notices. But one of the things, which there are many, that Ian learns from Otter Tooth's writings, is that people can travel back and forth, basically, if they have jewels to the past, and they can come forward to the future, and vice versa, etc. And so in his mind, he's thinking, oh my God, that's, Aunt Claire is not a fairy. She's a real person, and she has this real power, and that's what's so different about her. He could never put his finger on it, but he always had his eye on her, as far as like just wondering, like there's something mystical about this lady. I love her to death. I would lay down my life for her, but I just don't understand what that thing is. And of course, Jamie knew, but they could not reveal that to Ian, especially with Ian being, especially before he comes to this point in his life. He was just the most adventurous kid. He was the first willing to bungee jump if it had existed back then. Even though it wasn't safety tested, he'd be like, I'm going to do it. And he'd do it with a smile. So it was smart of them not to say anything to him. But when he comes back to them in the story at this point, one of the things that Jamie and Claire noticed is that he seems quieter. He seems more settled. Things he does are more purposeful. And there's still something else about him which they haven't figured out yet. So there's a meeting, a family meeting is called, and this family means Jamie's direct blood family members. So even Fergus is not in on this meeting. Yeah, so I'll just say Fergus at this point. And so it's Jamie, Ian, Roger, Bree, baby Jemmy, just because he's with his mother, of course, Claire, and they all meet and they finally spill the beans. They finally basically confirm everything that Ian was kind of trying to figure out and read in Otter Tooth's diary and told him, yes, it is true. We can do this. And, Jamie made him aware because, of course, Ian is like, Uncle Jamie, you can do this too. And he's like, no, I can't do it. And he's like, well, how do you know you can't do it? And he's like, well, because there are the jewels. Like, there's this sound you should hear when you touch them. And if you don't hear this sound or this buzzing or this vibration in your body, it basically is a confirmation that you cannot travel, unfortunately. And so he's like, but does that mean everyone else in this room could travel? So he looks at Claire, and of course he knows that she can. Bree, and she confirms, and Roger confirms. And so there's like a silence in the room. And, it's like, God, I wonder if Ian can travel. So I call them the stones, but the jewels are actually hidden in plain sight. They're actually inside of the melted wax of a clock. And they used to have this clock, and I've actually seen this in my business only once, where it would actually melt a candle to help keep time. And based upon the speed of the candle melting, they could sort of tell what time it was. And inside of that melted wax at the bottom is where Jamie and Claire had hidden the jewels. So Jamie digs them out and he cleans them off, hands the jewels to Ian. And Ian is, waiting, he's open. He's opened his heart, his mind, his body, his soul, whatever. And he's open to trying to feel that vibration or whatever that strangeness is. And it never happens. So in doing this, he basically hands the stones back to Jamie. And he's like, are you sure, Uncle Jamie? He's like, yes, I'm sure. I can't do this. I hear nothing. I don't see anything. Nothing happens. And in the meantime, one of the stones falls on the floor. And they hear this yelp, something's happened to baby Jemmy. And they notice that he had picked up one of the stones. And baby Jemmy can travel, people. He has the special power, spirit, whatever it is. And they tested him a couple of times and asked him questions which confirmed that he can travel to the future. So that is a huge, huge spoiler. I couldn't wait to tell you about that. So some other things I want to update you on is, as far as the regulators go, what happens with them? We know that Governor Tyron, the tyrant, as I like to call him, calls to, Jamie to get this militia together. Jamie does not like this dude because he knows what's going to happen with the American Revolutionary War. And he knows that the British are going to basically, try to take over the Americas, which technically, they did settle the Americas, even though it was not their land to settle. And he's like, he knows that, it's going to be neighbor against neighbor, brother against brother, etc. So he really has a sour taste feeling in his mouth because he is like, I have to listen to this guy, but in the future, I'm probably going to have to fight against this guy and take him down. Well, just another spoiler, just to let you know, Tyron never gets to the Revolutionary War because he is killed before that. Just, something to spoil it a little bit for you, and I'll give you more details on that in the future. But anyway, what happens with the regulators is eventually they end up disbanding and going back to their homes, their farms, their whatever, and there is never a time that Jamie has to have the militia fight against the regulators. So that's just something I want to give you a conclusionary check mark on. Also, Roger's voice. You know that his voice was damaged when he was hung by the rope until he was basically dead. until the miracle of Claire and time, etc., and his own strength of being took over, and he was eventually healed enough. However, his voice has been damaged, his voice box. So his normal speaking voice does not sound the same. So that's something that you should expect when you watch the television show, is Roger's voice will be different. And he has a beautiful singing voice. He sings at all of the gatherings, and if there are weddings or funerals or whatever there are, just humming around, the ridge while he works. And that is going to change, of course, as well, to the point that his, finally, it is going to take a long time, and I don't know if they'll put this on television or not, but eventually, after a lot of time has passed, he's, has his speaking voice back, but it doesn't sound the same. So he feels as if, he's never going to sing again, as he just doesn't even want to hear his own voice, let alone play his own instruments. So one day he's playing with baby Jemmy, and he is basically croaking out this little nursery rhyme to him. And there are a couple people in the room who hear it. So I wonder if eventually, will his singing voice come back? Will his speaking voice be a little bit more normal? Just saying, something to stay tuned for. Just to let you know, in this particular season, no one should be going back to the future. I mean, if they do, then they're really progressing the story along. I don't believe that will happen, but in this particular season 5, there should be, just like in the books, plenty of love, violence, danger, celebration, sex, advancement, history, and other surprises. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope this was as exciting for you as it is for me. And I hope you enjoy this photo of Claire's surgery. I will keep it on just for a couple seconds after I finish speaking, so you can enjoy the ambiance of it with the rain going off in the background. Also, please remember to give us a thumbs up, leave a comment, subscribe. Every time you leave a comment on one of these videos and a thumbs up, that's your entry into the drawing for the books, which I'll show you in a minute. Also, it just helps our channel so that we know that we're giving you content that you love, that you're interested in. And I do have 2 super specials, and I'm talking, there may be 3, but right now I'm hoping I can get it into 2 really crazy super specials you will not want to miss. So thank you for tuning in. Let me give you a little visual of the books and some of the other drawing gifts that you can win. I'm trying not to call them prizes. They're more gifts to you.